Hello YouTubers. I'm going to give an instructional video how to change the lithium ion cells in a battery pack for a Ryobi 12 volt drill. This model is an HJP002. The battery pack, of course, is this device right here, and the part number on it is a CB120L 14 watt 12 volt. The batteries that were in this were actually smaller milliamps than this that I bought for a replacement. They're still a 3.7 volt cell. This is a 4200 milliamp hour. The batteries are in this, or the cells that are in this, are a 700 milliamp. So of course the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a Torx T8 and we're going to remove the screws from the bottom of the housing to open this device up. Okay, so now as we remove the screws for the bottom of the case, we can pull these out. They're all the same length, so there's no concern about mixing them up. And then we'll pull the case apart here. Put those aside. And the top part of this case comes off. And it might be a little sticky, but there's no other clips, there's no other screws you're missing, there's just probably a little adhesive. So these two halves come apart. I'll set that aside. This here's the battery pack itself with the three cells in it. And these might fall out. They're just little clips that slide in and out, just like that. Also, this little rubber piece may come out. It can come out, but it goes. You can leave it in the bottom, just like that. Okay, so here we have the battery pack itself. First, on the top, you'll see the PCB with some components on it, and then here are our three cells. We're going to replace these. As you can see, these are I looked these up, and these are a 700 milliamp, I believe is correct. Anyways, with lithium ion, each cell is 3.7 volts. We're going to increase the milliamps of it, and everything will be fine with that. The charger will see it, charge them up, so you'll actually get longer life out of these other 4200 milliamp batteries. You'll see this is an 18650 BB. That tells you the size of the battery, the length and the diameter. So it's an IMR 18650 BB, and this Ultra Cell brand that I bought off eBay is an 18650, which it tells you it's the exact same dimensional size. So the first step, you'll see this foam here. I removed all of that. I'm not worried about keeping that. I think it's pretty minor. One other notice that you'll see here is that under this piece of tape, there's it looks like a diode. It may be actually a temperature sensor, but it's going to hang down below, and it's kind of attached to the side. So just kind of pull this tape away. You can actually reuse this tape when you pull that off. And we'll see, we'll pull that piece off there. And so we'll set that aside and we'll reuse that. But you can see that little device there is just kind of probably a temperature sensor. So now the battery has these little plastic end caps, and they're attached to the PCB with 4 screws, or 2 screws per each. There's 2 different ones here, and we're going to remove those. Use a small Phillips head for that, and I'm just going to go ahead and unscrew those. They're all the same also, so there's no concern about mixing them up, but don't mix them up with the Torx that you used on the outside. So I'm basically going to get all these loose. There's a mosquito. Look at that, he got in the picture. I don't know what. Mosquito eater. Here in Houston, we've got mosquitoes. It's not really super cold yet, or hasn't really gotten cold yet. Okay, so I'm going to set all these screws aside here. And I'm going to remove this foam from the end caps. Now you need to be careful not to short the battery. Still is going to have some voltage in it, and we need to be careful not to short it, but it's usually okay if you only one working on one cell at a time. Again, I'm going to destroy this. It's I think it's pretty benign. It what it's being used for. It's a little bit of shock mounting, but I don't bang my drill around too much anyway, so you could probably use some acetone or denatured alcohol to help you remove all this and the adhesive, but get that off. And one more on this side. Super critical again. I will clean these off later, clean off some of this adhesive. So you'll see that on this side, they call this the battery plus side. You'll see one cell is connected to this tab on the PCB, and these two ends are connected to this tab on the PCB. And so what I did is I just pried these up so that I tried to kind of pop the welds on the battery and save as much as that as you can, because you're going to want to use those to solder onto. The one thing about the replacement cells, you need to make sure that you buy the cells with tabs on them. The tabs are going to let you solder to them. When you buy a battery cell without a tab, the end caps don't solder. They're very difficult to solder on. They actually spot weld these on, and that's how these are attached. So I may basically just pulling the spot weld up as much as I can. I don't need to keep all of this piece of metal, but I want something to solder onto. Anyway, I'm gonna pop that up. So that one's detached there. You see the end cap there. And then I went ahead and I try to get these two. You may not get this center one intact, but it will prop off. Get a little pry area there. That one popped off, and we'll get the second one. And there's that one. And then one last side on this side. Get started there. These are pretty soft metal. They can be ripped kind of easily. You just kind of keep prying closest to the weld, and you'll eventually pop those up just like that. That one got popped up. Okay, not quite. There we go. So those three are separate, or those two are separated. And I'm going to go ahead and flatten these out with a pair of pliers. Kind of keep them neat. Don't handle them too much, they could break and you would have a little more difficulty. So basically I'm just get those two out of the way. You'll see that this this device here, it will come off, but there's a plastic piece that enters into the metal here, and so this side won't come off without it. Let me get all this foam out of the way, and we'll remove this foam on this side. Stop the video here. Okay, so now I've got both sets of tabs released, and you see the battery pack falls out. Now, you want to make sure you keep these in order because that's critical. So these are just a little stubborn on this side. There we go. So that's going to go there like that. And I'll show you the polarities in just a minute, but you'll see that that mounts just like that there. So now I've got my tabs here that I'm going to resolder to, and so I'm going to go ahead and clean these up with a little bit of acetone, and I'm going to straighten those out just like I did the other side already, and this one got bent up just a little bit. So also when you pull these tabs off, you can use once you get a corner up, you can use these needle nose pliers to pull those up too. So this rag's got acetone on it, and it should dissolve most of that adhesive. And there it's in there. Doesn't have to be perfectly clean because we're going to put a sardine on it too. It's going to melt all that glue anyways, but the cleaner it is, the better. And if you wanted, you could take a little piece of sandpaper and get that off too. But I'm going to clean these and start the video. Okay, so now I've got that cleaned, and you know, I didn't clean them perfectly, but they're clean enough on both sides. And so we know that this goes this way with this little link tab. Is going to cover this section right here under here, so that's how we know the batteries go. Now the one thing that's important is that you pay attention to the polarity of this. If you look, this battery came with a piece of shrink tubing on the positive side and the negative side. This cell right here is positive, negative, so that cell's going to sit in there like that. Now I know from the previous one I did, this middle cell is going to be positive over here, and this third cell is going to be positive back over here. And you can see the positive there, and if you flip this over, you'll see the positive is right there, and on the center cell, you'll see the negative is right there. You may not be able to see it, but anyways, that's how that goes. And so these cells are going to fit in there just like that. Now I do want to make a disclaimer here that I'm not going to be responsible for any damage you may do to your drill, your electronic circuit, or your charger. Working with lithium ion batteries can be dangerous. Shorting them out can cause fires, or they can explode in extreme cases. So I do want you to proceed with caution, and all the responsibilities are with you. So I'm going to go ahead and bend this tab out, and I'm going to put it through this hole here, and then I'm going to bend this one out, and we'll do it for all three of these so that we know that we're ready to install these. And let me put this guy in here and pull that guy out there. So now we're lined up the way we want, and we're going to pull this plastic cap off. I'm going to insert all of these in there. Just like that. We'll worry about the orientation, the way we want those in just a moment when we get that lined up. And then we're going to pull that one off, and we're going to line all this up and get that through there. So we've got the cells installed into the battery plastic case holder. So I'm going to move those off. I'm going to go ahead and mount this back. This will keep the batteries in place, and we can manipulate the tabs and rotate them as we need to. So I'm going to go ahead and install these small screws again. These are the small short Phillips head, not the Torx heads. This will line up in here. And let me screw that on down. Okay, and then this one will line up right here. Two. This one you may have to play with a little bit. This case is going to be sticking out, so I got that going in there now. And go ahead and not tighten that one all the way down yet because this is not lined. I'll place this last one in there, and the batteries will be held the way they need to be held. Now don't over tighten these. This is screwed into plastic, so they're not, you can't take a lot of torque on these. And we're all set. Okay, so now if we look at one end, see this is going to fold down and solder to this, and this is going to solder across. And I got a tab in here bent, but we should be able to pull that out. Just like that. So that's, I'll straighten that out a little bit. And what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to try to get these battery tabs laying on the top of it. That way I can see them all. And the same for this side here. This one right here I can probably put right down in the center of this slot, just like that. And you can get those on there like that. So that one's where it needs to be. And of course I'm going to pull that piece of shrink tubing off. And this one actually can lay down right there, and we'll pull this piece of shrink tubing, and this is going to fold over like that. Just go ahead and make sure these are all within inside this circular deal here. I'm going to fold that back over itself, and just that's how that side's going to look. And then with this one, I'm going to go ahead and pull that off. Put this down, and since I've placed the battery on the other side, I can just fold that down like that, and then we're going to fold that one down like that. And I'm going to make sure this gets positioned in this little slot here, just like that, so that's flush. And then I put that down, I'm going to fold it on itself again, and just like that. And then this one, not real critical again, we'll just get that down, and then fold that over the top. And right there is fine too. We're going to solder that all together. So that's how that one side's going to look, and that's how that side's going to look. I'm going to push this diode back down. We'll go ahead and put tape back on it, just like it was. And it had two pieces for some reason. So we've got that insulated. It doesn't really need to be because there's plastic there. So now we're ready to solder. Now I'm going to go ahead and just solder these two sides right here, or this side here, these three spots. So just keep these as flat, about as flat as you can get them. Get that guy up. There we go. And there's a mosquito eater again. Doggone it. Now we got this one tab here. Doggone him. He just wants in the picture. Okay. Actually, those are called mosquito hawks, I believe. So that one's soldered. And then we're going to get this guy right here. And we should have enough solder on that. Make sure you've got good solder joints. You see that flowed together there, that flowed there, and that all flowed well there, so we're good with that. And we're going to solder the other side. Now we've got to be careful because I doubled this back, so we're going to heat that up. Just a little bit of solder in there. And that one's good. Yeah, we'll do this guy. That one doesn't look that good. Okay. And one last one right here. Okay. That's it. This is you can see I got a little break right here, so I'm going to go ahead and put some solder here, make sure that doesn't break. There we go. Still not perfect, but when I removed it, I kind of broke it, so you need to be careful of that. That looks a little better. Okay. Okay. So now this battery pack's ready to go back together. There's no real reason that you have to insulate that. If you'd like, you can put some, electrical tape on the sides. But this is going into a plastic cake. There's nothing to short against it. I make these as flat as I can so that these won't protrude, and you'll see that it's good right there. So now these batteries that I bought on eBay, I bought a 6-pack. So I had 2 battery packs. I'm replacing the cells in each one. For 6 of them, I paid $21. That included shipping. So it's a good deal. I think Ryobi charges about $50 for just one battery pack. So now we're going to put this all back together. Now this will fit in both ways. It'll fit in this way, and it will fit in this way also. So it doesn't really matter. You can see that. Actually, I'm sorry. It does only go in one way. There's a keying device right here, so it only goes in one way. You can't mess that up. Then this device goes back on. The top goes back on just like that. And we put the screws back in it, and we should be all done. And I'll check the voltage to make sure that I've got 12 volts on these 2 outer pins. And actually I'll do that now so you can see it. It's not going to be 12 volts because these don't come fully charged, but it'll be close to it. So, okay, so now we're going to check the voltages on these 2 pins right here. You see it's close to 12 volts, 11.5. When this gets fully charged, it'll be 12 volts, and that's all we need to do with that. We'll see that everything is good with that. So we just put the top back on and screw the screws in it. Again, the T8, these screws all are the same, so they don't matter which way they go. And that's all there is to it. Thanks for watching. One last thing, I want to make sure that everybody understands that when you, first of all, you need to dispose of your old cells, not in the landfill, not in your normal garbage. They should be recycled. One precaution you should always take with batteries is that you should insulate the ends or package these individually in a plastic bag by itself. I just put electrical tape over each end so that they can't short together. Now, you need to be careful because all batteries, if they were to short together, they can get hot and they can actually catch on fire. You can see right here I got a piece poking through, and I'm going to press that down, and then I'm going to put another piece of tape over that. So just be careful of that. They can be dangerous. Thanks.